Try again, sir.
Commissioner Lopez, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. First day of Riverfest. So, Tom,
And it's
Take
June already. So
it is June.
we're discussing the June 7th agenda review, and I think Tanya's going to talk about county news.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. For County News, we will be covering the DD 214 video featuring Commissioner Dennis and Commissioner Howell, as well as our Register of Deeds, Tanya Buckingham. And then we will also cover the drug court graduation and also information about our drug court. So those will be the two items covered for County News.
Okay.
Then when we get into business, we have districts 2, 1, and 3 have some advisory board movement that will be handled under appointments by Mike. Under new business, and Joan sent a pretty lengthy email to you all yesterday regarding the agreement between CompCare and Wichita for the co-responder project. That has been months in the progress and in the process. It's a really good news piece of information that Joan will present on as the first item of new business. And if you have questions, I think Tim can probably answer any technical question you have on that.
Yeah,
It will
she's
be on the city agenda on Tuesday.
Joan sent a pretty thorough email out to most of us. So thank you, Joan, for sending that explanation out.
Item F will be the American Rescue Plan Act spend plan update. I want them to kind of just talk about that a little bit.
So you all had visits from Brent and the Recovery Connect team this last week. I just don't want it to be a surprise when we get to the commission meeting. The consensus that we've heard is that there is support to continue the program this year and into next year with a reduced budget. We are refining those numbers now based on the feedback that was received. And so we will include that in the spend plan. We will get that information, the details to you early next week. I don't have it right now, but I just didn't want that to be a surprise when we get to that part. Otherwise, everything else has remained the same in that spend plan. And so I guess my plan is to briefly introduce it and talk about the grand totals per area. And then we will have folks from Recovery Connect here who can come up and discuss the program. Brent also can add any details and then give commissioners an opportunity to discuss and then vote. So that would be my plan, is probably not to go into as much detail as we've gone in the last couple times, unless you all tell me that that is useful to you.
Because it's similar. Are we required? Is this a monthly thing that you need to do?
No, so the commission, there are a couple of changes in this plan that had been recommended after the last time we talked in February.
Okay.
But that has not been adopted by the commission. We have continued to just follow with what you all had temporarily approved basically in February.
Okay.
We have held off on some of those other changes that are necessary, including some judicial CIP work that needs to be done. And so we had been given 6 weeks to come back at the last conversation. Actually, that 6 weeks would be the 14th, but PPMC was not available then. So we're coming to you a week earlier.
Okay. So this is
Otherwise, we'll come back to you in another quarter to discuss.
So this will be a required approval of
Yes.
the plan.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Because of timing issues and deadlines and everything associated with ARPA, we really need to get a decision
Okay.
from the commission.
all right. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, item G is Joe's presentation on bid board. And then we get into consent items. The first 5 are all easements and only 2 have a fiscal note. Item H is a easement on a special assessment project out in District 3, Dry Creek Estates. Item I is for a bridge replacement project on Greenwich between 109th and 117th North. One of them with a fiscal note is item J. That is a drainage project on 79th South between Seneca and Broadway, and that it comes at an $8,400 cost out of the Public Works Fund Center. Item K also has a similar fiscal note on it's a construction easement on 151st. I'm sorry, it's on 61st, in between 151st and 167th. It's just by the ICM plant outside of Colwich. $3,450 coming out of Public Works Fund Center. Item L is an easement for a drainage project on 31st between 127th and 143rd. And I'm sorry, there is a fiscal note on L to $2,750 out of Public Works budget. Item M is, Mike and I were just talking about that. That is a bridge weight restrictions resolution. We do it every year. I think Lynn does it every year, or the Public Works Director does it every year. It's the annual reset for that. Lynn is out of town this week. I don't know if anybody here from Public Works to answer technically. If there's questions, let me know and we'll get them answered. N and O are planning department issues. N is a zone change request from rural residential to general commercial in District 3 on West 23rd Street South, within a quarter mile east of South 167th Street West and West 23rd. Commissioner Dennis, are you up to speed on that? Okay. Item O is a conditional use request to permit an accessory apartment. This is also in District 3, 109th Street North and 183rd Street West. And JR is here. I think if there's any questions for either N or O. P is the CIP amendment that we have talked with you each individual about. I think we're going to end up, I know we're going to end up moving that to new business. So we'll take and make that the new business item after Lindsay, after the ARPA. That'll become the new G. And then item Q is an amendment to the agreement for Wichita Traffic Management Center. And up on that just for a second. Rusty, do you want to talk on that a little bit, the history of what's happening with that consent item?
This was an agreement from, don't quote me, I think 2008. It's been, that may be too far. Anyway, KDOT had funded two positions that belonged to Allura. And those positions were used, they were trained dispatchers, but they were used to monitor the KDOT cameras in the emergency communication center. And with her staffing shortage and the fact that the world has changed, the fact that KDOT is now using their own personnel or contract personnel most of the time doing remote work, monitoring these screens. She essentially said she needed those dispatchers back on consoles and she could absorb the bodies into her vacancies. She didn't want or need this contract with KDOT anymore. She didn't need trained dispatchers spending all their time sitting and looking at screens instead of on consoles. So she talked to KDOT, they agreed. And then they went through and amended this agreement, this contract, so that KDOT would stop paying for those positions and we would stop providing bodies to do that work because they have other folks who can do it. So that's essentially what this is.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're not even going to provide space in there, because when Commissioner Chairman Meitzner and I toured over there while we were looking at some rooms.
No, this doesn't have any effect on we'll still have the KDOT monitors in the room and they will still have workstations, but they will provide their own bodies. They have people that they contract or utilize for that service. So they'll still have two consoles in the communication center. They'll still have their monitors up on the wall. And then they will still have a PIO, office space for a PIO, and an office space for another employee in our building on the first floor. So none of that was affected. It's just these two bodies that did nothing but monitor the screens will no longer be doing that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the explanation.
Item R, I think I handed all of you the hard copy of the policy change. I think I might have missed you, Commissioner Beatty. I'll get you a hard copy of it today. It's the resolution adopting the new at-large advisory board appointments policy. The big change in that is the if we have multiple candidates for an advisory board position, you will all be visited in a 2-to-1 meeting to talk about qualifications so that we don't have to do that necessarily publicly to embarrass anyone. So other than that, the policy pretty much runs the same as the previous policy. And then item S is a budget transfer. And I might want to, Lindsay, can you talk about this just a bit? This has also been several months in the works and we're finally.
Actually, years in the works. So in 2013 through 2019, MABCD was able to collect fees on behalf of the fire district for inspections. Unfortunately, there wasn't a system that was set up where fire would automatically invoice for those fees. And so from 2013 through 2019, those fees were not remitted from MABCD to the fire district, just about 300,000. So we've been working through that process. We're going to ask to do it and fix it in 2023 while MABCD is in the general fund. And this is simple because if you remember, since we have the new fee or the new fund, which we're very excited about for next year, we want to make sure we get as much cleaned up as humanly possible. So that's why we're asking for a transfer from the general fund operating reserve to MABCD in order to get those fees remitted to the fire district, which will have the added benefit of boosting the fire district's fund balance as well as we go into the budget. So that's what that is. Pretty straightforward. Just a little bit of cleanup that otherwise we have to wait till 24 to do, and we would rather not wait.
Questions?
T through Y or routine county paperwork cleanup types of things, or there's a plat in there on item T, but other than that, just routine business. So that's really all we have. And there is no fire agenda next week. So.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Comments? Commissioner Lopez, you're online.
Nope, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know if this is executive session worthy or not, but I'd like to have a discussion about Wesley contract on EMS transports. I'd like to see that on the agenda. Actually, I'd like to have a public discussion, but we need to talk about it. So I don't know if it belongs on the agenda, but I would really like to see that addressed publicly some point.
Well, and Commissioner staff will have a meeting here in the next week or two to have a conversation about that. If you would allow us to have that conversation and then come back and maybe report out on that.
That's totally fine. I just think that eventually I want this to be a public discussion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Friday, everybody.